Chapter 45, What I Learned About Karma. I was thinking about my own karma just now. My last story about Enzo's payback is a bitch story got me to wondering about my own liability of delivering karma to others. So as usual, I asked the oneness. I talk to it all the time now since my return. By the way, so do you. Whenever you speak to anything or anyone out loud or in prayer, to a pet, to an animal, a doll, or even a statue, it is in a real sense speaking to your higher power, and oneness understands that. You don't have to say a name. It's the only thing that's there to talk to. It doesn't matter how you say it. Anything you speak to or pray to is oneness. It is all the same, no matter what name you use, or who you think you may talk to, or what you may call it. So my advice is chill out and talk to it like you talk to your very best friend, because it is in fact, truly, the only best friend you have. Anyway, my personal question was, well, what of my payback choice with Enzo? And I wait, and I wait, and I wait. And finally I understand. The answer was, very clever. If your friend handled this result with understanding and without resentment, you may have saved your friend another lifetime to pay back a debt of his karma incurred for cutting off your own personal mission. Note, hey, don't look at me. I just type these answers as they come and read the words after I type them, just like you do. I change very little, and I struggle with typing the foul language and insults that are urged by me. But the simple fact is, we all have free will. And just like the man says, do unto others as you would have them do unto you, or you will reap exactly what you sow. Karma means there is no escape from your own thoughts and your own actions. You will make a debt payment back. Andrew. Where was I about Andrew? Let me tell you about Andrew. We did so many amazing things together for so many years with absolutely nothing to work with that when I look back on it, I don't even know where to start. Andrew was my very best friend and steadfast workmate in Namibia. Everyone knew it. And many were envious that we had such a close relationship and friendship and mutually compatible warrior psyche. We could read each other's minds like we were well-rehearsed actors in a long-running play. I'd think it, he'd say it. He'd think it, I'd finish his sentence, and I'd do it. Kind of this type of relationship. He was a really great friend and fun to be with as well. So where can I begin? Well, back at Odibo, it started where? Don't walk off the path. This place is surrounded by landmines, is where it actually began. Odibo, our training center at the Protestant mission, run by his parents in northern Namibia along the Angolan border. I was exhausted after weeks of being the only old man around these young pups in World Teach. The bus stopped at every checkpoint and takeaway along the northern road for at least 15 hours. I watched the youngins pretending they were absorbing the real culture. Andrew smiled at me often as I rolled my eyes when they imitated the African customs and the handshakes with the staff and each other that they had just learned while going along the way. I was probably the only passenger that knew Andrew spoke most of the African languages perfectly. No one else knew that but me. As the bus pulled slowly into the mission, Mother Superior barked her orders of the day and we exited. When the locals saw me exit the bus, they applauded, and an old white-haired man rushed toward me, hugged me, saying in English, "Welcome, Father." Relax. I am not repeating myself. I am only trying to make a point by reading that part of the story again. Tate is an accurate African word. That was my name. Tate, it means father. He hugged me hard. He took my hand. He led me by the hand, like an old African friend, to meet all the local dignitaries, introducing me as a special guest. Paying no attention to any of the others on the bus, who were all agape at my automatic acceptance by the local leaders in an unknown African village setting. I looked down at the sand. It was moving. I mean actually moving. It was covered with ants. I walked quickly after his introductions into the eating hall with the others, stamping my flip-flop feet full of ants. Andrew was laughing very hard. "What?" I said. He said, "He's the local Sangoma, the witch doctor. He told all of them that you were an ancient warrior spirit who came back to help them in all their struggles." I said, "I am? How come these damn ants don't get in on it?" In my smart-ass American fashion, laughing back. This is my earliest memory of Andrew. Skinny, young, vulnerable, shy, painfully quiet, extremely intelligent, knew all the languages, just the right kind of roomie for me, and ta-da! His parents were the missionaries and lived there. They were on holiday in the South, so I could get hot water showers. Ooh, rah! As I already explained once, our personal assignment was that in 1 week's time period, we had to get a group of non-English speaking high school kids to put on a public show. A show, a play, a poem, a game, anything in English for the local villagers. I decided in my play to have a judge, a prosecutor, defense, and a criminal. Of course, no one wanted to play that part. And I introduced the idea of a jury. I was different. It's a Commonwealth nation, but they didn't use juries in Namibia. It was a hit. Very, very funny, and entertained the entire village. These kids made me proud. All my life I was always the object of intense personal jealousy by my associates. I catch on easy, and I was always picked for the best jobs and then the leadership position. I never had to study, and I always paid and earned my own way in all the education endeavors, all through and including graduate school and law school. I got elected twice to public office, learned my own hard business and sports lessons, and had no family name or financial estate to fall back on, and could really piss people off with my smart aleck mouth. I am very aware of it. I'm very sensitive about it. When I sense my aggressive attitude forming as an opinion, I try to let it pass. But this time, screw them all with their fancy schmancy Ivy League education degrees. They had no clue I went to Bloomsburg State Teachers College, and I was actually trained, and I worked as a teacher. I wanted a dunk shot. I reveled in ecstatic glory watching my team perform. While the others looked, rehearsed, and wrote, and Childish Mind could actually speak and understand English, as they played each of their parts in the drama, both for the parts they played and the concepts of the issues they learned presented spontaneously in English, with no memorization of words whatsoever. We knocked them dead. Go Huskies. The long week at the mission ended our formal World Teach training together, and I never saw Andrew again until we both had our bouts with the most dangerous African killer, cerebral malaria. Neither of us knew of each other's near-death experience until we met again in Swakopmund. Swakopmund is a beautiful, quaint, German, colonial, constructed tourist town on the west coast of Namibia. A holiday refuge of sorts for a burgeoning new Namibian middle class of white business and professionals and those newly returned from exile who were black. It was a temporary relief for the rigid poverty and pervasive starvation common around the rest of the country. Poverty is easy to hide. Starvation isn't. Everyone, everywhere in the third world is always hungry. Food is always at a premium and hard to get in the desert areas. Most of it comes from South Africa, along with the AIDS virus, brought by the same truck drivers that bring all the other supplies up and down the African continent. They convince women along the way, who they buy sex from, with a pittance for food or treasure, that Jack Daniel's Kentucky Bourbon Whiskey actually cures the AIDS sickness if it is poured over the penis prior to insertion into the woman, then poured directly into the opening used for sex after the act. I tell you, this is a true story of how the AIDS virus spread so quickly along the truck routes up and down the African continent. When the UN passed out condoms in the north, the population used them, but they snipped the ends off so that they could feel the ejaculation happen. No kidding. I did not believe this story. I did not believe any of this. These are true stories. AIDS is now the uncontested #1 killer in Africa. However, ignorance is still the main cause of death in all third world countries. I was not ignorant. I knew a lot about AIDS. I did a considerable amount of research on the subject back in Delaware, long before it caught on as an international pandemic terror. And I'll tell you more later about the cure for AIDS. By the way, think of the name stem cells before I read the next chapter. Thank you.